What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bownerd podcast. Today's episode, AJ and I go and talk about the Dialed Archery Arxos site. Now that both of us have our hands on a prototype, we kind of go in depth on a little bit on what our first initial thoughts are, kind of our raw opinion about it, things that we contributed to the site, things that we absolutely love and will not ever live without. And then after kind of discussing a little bit in the intro as far as introducing the Arxos site, we're going to talk to Scott Bakken, one of the founders of Dialed Archery, and we're so stoked to have him on the podcast. So we're just going to leave it to that and let it roll in to me and AJ discussing the Arxos site and what our first initial thoughts are. So we just want to say thank you guys to all of the people that we have had support our podcast from the beginning. It's only going to get bigger and better from here on out, and we are so excited to have you guys on board in the early stages, and we're so thankful for Dialed Archery for being the title sponsor of the podcast. So big shout out to them, and thanks for their expertise and giving us a chance and taking a chance on us. So anyway, let's roll into the podcast with AJ and I and Scott Bakken.
We actually recorded this podcast a couple of weeks ago. It was one of our first ones, but Brax and I wanted to wait till we had the new Arxos pre-production sites in so we could talk about them and give some of our feedback and our experiences with it as kind of a lead in to our discussion with Scott. So Brax, you just got yours in, man. What do you think?
Dude, honestly, the very first thing that I noticed opening up the box was the switch tape. That thing is money because I am so anal about trying to get my sight tape on straight and being able to take that tape off, the tapering off, and lay it flat. But then also, it didn't come to my mind right away, but I'm like, freak, you can switch out different tapes for different arrows, different setups, and you're not trying to keep the tape and peel it off or whatever, which, yeah, no, right out of the box for having this as just the pre-production model is freaking money. And shooting it, I don't know if it was just a good day for me, but my group was way tighter I was only shooting at 30 yards, but you could definitely feel it, and the sight picture just looks money, having that level on the top versus the bottom. I kept finding myself like at full draw sitting there and like adjusting to look at the bottom, and I'm like, wait, it's not there. And so I go back to a regular anchoring position and I can see just money without, like, I feel like I always had to adjust a little bit for that. Anyway, so yeah, I could talk forever about just my first impressions of shooting it. I haven't had a ton of long distance time on it, but should be getting that this week for sure.
Yeah, I was psyched for you to get it. And we kind of touch on it with Scott, but I had the early prototype version from back in November, and there was a lot of like little things still getting worked out on there. But from that to see the pre-production that you and I have now, and you've got the pick rail version, this thing's super sweet. And what you touched on with the tapes, that was something I noticed as well. I got even with the prototype model, and for those of you just listening, we've got the sights in front of us on our bows. But when I got it literally 2 hours before I had to hit the road for a hunt, and I was able to sight at into 50 without like having the sight tapes, just walking it back. It was just super easy to having the tape, the wheel where it is, and having it be independent from that void dial just makes making your little hash marks and then just turning it to where it's got to go to set your 20. It's just so simple. And I'm with you. I love the top bubble. I thought it was a good idea, but I found that I'm way quicker coming to anchor. Something about like mentally, my process, like just I tend to like have to bring my pin down on target anyway. So something about like lining up my peep with my scope housing, checking my bubble, and just I don't even look at the lines like I used to when the bubble was below my pins. I just float that bubble right above my pin, kind of like a lowercase I, and then just hover my pin over the target. And yeah, I'm with you. I haven't been posting groups because like I know as soon as I do, I'll probably crap the bed and start shooting like just get about a target panic just for bad luck. But Yeah, something about this setup. I've been having really, really consistent groups with it.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed, I don't know if it was on purpose or if it's just the pre-production model or whatever, but on the top of my bubble, that white housing ring inside the sight is where the seam of it comes. I don't know if it's going to be solid on the final, but I noticed that it's dead center, and it catches my eye a little bit with when that bubble lines up right in the dead center of that. And I feel like I don't know if that's on purpose. If it's not, maybe I'll tell that to Taylor, just add a little hash mark right there, cuz I don't know, my eye catches it and it lines up between that line, the bubble, and the pin all at the same time, and I like catch it really easy.
So what that actually is that's actually a little channel that if you look on the top where your fiber optic is housed, so that like that hash mark actually is a channel that runs all the way in to that reservoir. So the reason they did that, and that was actually something that I asked for early on, was so the light being captured from that reservoir also runs into the bubble to light up the bubble too. That way, when the little slider, because in the future, this slider here that controls the reservoir will have a little light option. So in the future, when you have that light option, it'll also light up the bubble and the pins. That was my one of my
That's
little
money.
contributions to
That's
this
money.
site.
So your little contribution made my little hash mark happen right there. I think
Listen, dude, you just made my day because I thought that was just for me. So the fact that you picked up on that without any pre-conversation
what
is
I'm
pretty
really
epic.
good at, I feel like, with what I do for my reviews is I don't study anything. And that's why I dropped out of school. Like, I don't study unless I'm going to go buy something, I'll study it. But, like, what I try to do is just straight out of the box with zero knowledge about something. And, like, I really haven't even talked that much about the dial type before I got it with you or with Taylor or Scott or anything, like as far as functionality of every little part and piece. And I feel like that's where I benefit within myself in giving out a review or talking about it, because I figured out myself. And I mean, it's probably more satisfying to somebody like you that had that little input and you're like, oh, you did notice that without having to talk about it before. And so that's kind of what I try to, as far as when I give a review or whatever, is I just come in blank minded. And if I know something about it, I'm really good at just forgetting anything. My brain can just be clear. So I usually just record
Well,
at 2 or 3 in the morning when I don't remember anything.
Well, and I don't want to say I was purposely keeping you in the dark, but I didn't want to give you too much like lead in to like preemptively before you get the site, because like for me, I started seeing the earlier designs, so I'm kind of like a little more accustomed to it. So like for the dial team, which we based on our feedback and your feedback on the pick rail version, like they made a couple of tweaks to it. So I wanted you to have those fresh eyes to be able to give that feedback, because
Yeah.
all of that stuff is being taken into account
No, I
for the
appreciate that.
actual
Yeah.
production models.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and dial team's like just so fast at responding. When I had a couple little things that I was like, text Taylor, I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I'm seeing with this. Boom, literally that day, we're on the phone with, oh my gosh, Greg Temple, or Craig, not Greg. Craig
Yeah,
Temple,
yeah.
me, Taylor, and then their manufacturing side of things, and made a complete adjustment. And that's a lot of money because they're already machining
Yeah.
these things, and they felt like it was a good enough change to be able to benefit people that are going to be getting these. And me as a consumer off to the side, I feel like I totally would appreciate a company being open to anyone and everyone's expertise, so to say, or opinion on something, and having it this so like in the end game of launching is kind of just shows that they actually do care about getting the best product out there as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, they had no intention of doing a pick rail version this early on, but the feedback from everybody, especially I think those RX-7s are so hot this year
Yeah.
that I think, there was so much people asking for that pick rail model that they were like, we got to get this done. Same thing with on these pre-production models, they added So you've got like the little hash mark for your yardage, and then you've got 2 adjustable pins. So you could either use all 3 of those, or just 2 of those, or just one, because they're even with the single post, there are 2 pins on there. That was another thing that like people asked for, and originally they left it off because they just felt like they didn't need it, and it was cleaner and it would cut down on cost. But so many people wanted it that, I mean, TJ and Kyle went about designing that thing, I think like within the week of those first prototype models, and yeah, they've been knocking it out, man. And I think like that's the feedback and the concerns I've been seeing from people like seeing the site is like, it's so expensive, it's this, and it's like people got to realize like this is a brand new company with a brand new product, so they're coming at it from, if they launch another budget model site, they're competing with the entire market, right? Whereas if they launch everything that we've all been asking for years, that other companies haven't been just meeting those demands or those requests for certain features like customizable colors, the adjustable pins, all the little stuff. The AES, that angled system, which I don't know about you. I know you said you haven't gotten to test how far you can get. I've got marks out to 120 right now, and I've got enough room that I could probably get that bottom pin to 140.
That's
but
nuts.
Yeah, and I'm not even coming close to. Granted, that's with the bottom pin, but still, it's super comfortable. And I think, yeah, like people gotta realize like it's kind of like you've got your Formula One cars that like none of us can buy, but that technology trickles down. So when these guys, I know that it's not gonna be in everybody's budget, but when these guys decide to launch a budget model, like a lot of this stuff, they're trying to figure out like how can we get this down into those budget models too. But I think for like a premier site, especially now when everybody's asking for everyone's got a model that's $450 or $500 now. So
Yeah.
it's it's just they did a great job of packing all of these new features in a clean site. Like this thing is just like stupid clean. There's nothing to get.
Yeah, aesthetically, like it's. For instance, my wife is all about the aesthetic of anything and everything, especially in the house or whatever, and she was like amazed, like that actually makes your bow look like pleasing. It's not this hunk of metal just taped onto the side. It's clean. The angles, just the void, I don't know, all of it just makes it look just so clean. It's so simple, but yet so many moving parts and options for customizing exactly what you want in a site. Swapping out which sides the dial's on, swapping out the colors and the finishes and everything, which I think is freaking sick. I like to match stuff, so being able to get the green, I mean, it matches. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it matches like pretty well. It's a different finish. This is more of like a rough, and this is smooth, so it shows a different glare, but it's spot on. I know they won't say it's exact at Dialed, but I mean it's sitting here right in front of me, and it's there for sure.
Yeah, and I really like how clean it is, because again, it just makes setting up and just sighting in that much easier. I don't know if you got a chance to watch Dan from Elk Shape just did his review on it. I guess he just got his pre-production model. And one of the good questions that I saw him raise and a couple people raise was on the windage knob. So because the windage knob doesn't have a lockout, and I know like as bow hunters we freak out when like stuff can't get locked out and stuff. So Dan was saying he's gonna mark that with a Sharpie or a paint pen. So I guess like my unboxing video, YouTube must be recommending it after, because I had a whole bunch of people kind of like flood my DMs and stuff after that, asking if I've had it move on me. So honestly, I haven't. And for those of you watching, and even those of you listening, like there's a detent in there. So if you click that thing, I mean, it's a solid, like you have to put some solid pressure on there. And Kyle and TJ and the engineers involved, I mean, they were so anal about how much travel those clicks give you. So you're talking about like each click is fractions of an inch. Like I don't notice it at 20 and even further distances, just one click. Like that's the equivalent deviation of my normal shooting. So, for those, like I've been seeing the same kind of threads come up. So I wanted to like figured talk about that while we're looking at it there. But
Like, I just
yeah,
gave
and
it 10 clicks, and it probably hasn't even moved a millimeter with
and it
10
has those
clicks.
hash marks on the top
Yeah.
too.
Like,
So
you
yeah,
have to
because
really click it a bunch to get it to move, and that's where micro adjustment comes in handy, because
yep,
you don't want it moving a full hash mark every click. And
yeah,
no, it's money.
I think it's got more clicks than we have ability to shoot those clicks accurately.
Yeah.
So, and then I know the other thing you and I were talking about was with the angled elevation system, a lot of people are asking if we've noticed any difference on our sight picture, like our peep to sight housing alignment. I honestly haven't. At those further distances, usually I'm having to break my anchor a little, like open my mouth or something anyway. So I don't know if it's just a matter of all of that combined. Like, I don't notice any difference in sight picture. I've been shooting really good out to 110, 120 with it. But what I did find was, because you don't have to move the sight as much along the rail to cover the same distance, I'm not having to break my anchor. And normally, like, I have to do it around 70, like start opening my mouth a little to get consistent. I don't have to do that until like 90 now. So I'm able to like keep more of like a consistent hunting style anchor point throughout more of my shooting yardage, I guess, so to speak. But that was another cool thing that I noticed shooting this thing.
Yeah, and one of the biggest questions I've gotten so far is people asking, is there a 3-pin, 5-pin housing set, or is it going to be, a swappable housing, scope housing, because they don't want to spend $550 now or whatever, and not be able to get another housing later on when they come out with the 3 or 5. And so to answer that, yeah, there is stuff in the works to get other scope housings. Hopefully I'm correct on that. Am I right on that, AJ?
No, yeah, you're right on that. That was something I know that they've got, like, they're working on their 3 and 5 pins, and also, again, because like so many people ask for it, like a lot of people love their ultra view housings, so they are offering just the tower, and that's something new that I think they just started offering like within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you can actually order just the tower, and it comes with everything you need to mount the ultra view scope, and I got to imagine that in the future that'll be compatible with a number of different scopes on the market. But yeah, it's cool to see them coming out with solutions for what people want versus kind of the opposite. Like, hey, let's throw another bracket on an already complicated piece of machinery. So it's yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's super nice, and yeah, I'm excited to actually get out. Hopefully, I can get out this week and go shoot 100+ yards, because I've been too busy.
That pick rail version looks so clean on your bow,
Dude,
too.
it's money. After switching out, because I'm not gonna bag on any site, but this is what I had. It's a very complicated site. This is what I had on it before, and it's so bulky sitting on the side. Don't get me wrong. This site I love, the options and everything on it, but sitting off, like, it's like a solid inch further out as far as all the components because you got to have like a double clamp system that they have for their thing, but for the dovetail. But it was a night and day change, just having it's just so clean. Like, there's nothing there. It's literally just one bolt holding it, clamping it on that rail, and I don't know. It's clean. It's simple. It's money.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I was running. I mean, everybody who's been following me, I had the same spot hog on my site on my bow for the past 5-6 years. But and there's nothing wrong with it. But just for change of pace, I was getting ready to buy something new when I got pulled into this whole project to begin with. So, and I wasn't really like super stoked on anything else on the market at the time, but. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I like the solutions they came out with. It's been cool to be able to, like, I'm sure you feel the same way, like, have some input and, be a part of getting this thing off the ground. And for everybody, like, wondering, they're still on track for those June, July launches. So if you pre-ordered, I think talking to Taylor and the team, and we'll have more of the team on here moving forward. But yeah, I think they're still on track for those June, July pre-orders to go out. So. Looking good there.
I'm psyched for people to start getting these things. I think it's gonna blow up a lot bigger than what it is right now, because there's a lot of hype for it, but I think that hype's only going to get bigger once people actually have their hands on it and they're like actually realizing and seeing how sick it is.
Yeah, I think once this thing isn't just a concept, like it's not just you and me or whoever else talking about it, once it's actually in people's hands and they're getting to shoot it and see it, and it's, they have the actual proof of concept, I think people are going to like it even more than they think they will. It's one of those things, like, we're very hesitant to change as bow hunters, but then once we see that something works, we're all in on it, and this is definitely one of those things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And example for not wanting to change, for instance, on my RX1 that I had, that thing's, I mean, I still got it and I still shoot because that thing's freaking money. But the sight I have on it's black gold, like a freaking original black gold whatever pro. I can't even remember what they used to call it because I think it was something else at beginning stages, but it's literally from like 2015, 2014 maybe. And I won't switch it because they don't make them like they used to. It's different.
It happens sometimes, man.
And they're great sights. Like all the new ones I've bought probably 10 of them for giveaway bows and put it on my wife's bow and buddy's bows and stuff. And I still love it, but I don't love it as much as the one I have.
I know guys that when they find stuff that they like, they literally buy 10 of them just in case the company changes something down the line. Like,
yes.
They've got 5 of the same backpack. Yeah.
I guess if you've got the money to spend on 5 backpacks, might as well.
They've got them stored at like different hunting camps, like squirrels, just loaded up with gear. Yeah,
that'd be nice. Have like 10 different setups at different locations, so you don't have to ever pack anything. You just show up.
Honestly, when I heard that this guy did that, like I was pretty envious. I was like, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have the money for that.
No, dude, this weekend, let's see, Saturday, I was turkey hunt here in Utah, and usually
did you get one, by the way?
Oh, dude, it destroyed a turkey, and it was like the fastest, quickest hunt I've ever been on in my life. So what happened was Friday night. My wife and I, we live in northern Utah. We drove down to southern Utah. We get there at 11:30 at night, and while I was packing my hunting stuff, I was like, "All right, I don't have time. It's gonna be a short hunt. I'm just gonna go out one morning because we've got a baby shower. We got too much stuff going on. So I'm like, I'll be back at the house by 8 o'clock. And so pack my stuff. I'm looking for my camo. Can't find my camo. So I back when I was 14, I still fit in clothes from when I was 14. So I've got my old King's camo $5 pants. Got those. Got a t-shirt. It's an Under Armour something from way back when. I bought it at Ross. And then I had a Kuiu little zip-up jacket thing that for keeping me warm or whatever. Grabbed my shotgun, binos, and headed out the door. I was like, usually I have... I plan out my turkey hunts. I love turkey hunting. But this year, I haven't had very much time. Anyway, we get down to my parents' house at 11:30. And I actually had to unload a truck at 2:30 in the morning down in Mesquite, Nevada, which is an hour away from where I live. But it's also an hour earlier in time zone.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you guys had that.
So I could leave St. George at 2:30. And then get down there at 2:30. So I get down there, unload this truck, but I'm like, I want to go turkey hunting. So I literally slept for 30 minutes, drove down there, unload this truck, had all my turkey stuff with me, bounced straight up to the mountain, get there the perfect time. Sunrise is 6:32, so legal shooting 6:02, and I'm in my spot by 5:45. So it's just perfect. And I'm sitting there. And I see him at the roost, and I'm trying to find out which one's a tom or whatever, and start coming down right at legal light. And this one, I couldn't see him; I could just see his head, bright blue head. I'm like, I don't care if it's Jake, I don't care if it's a tom, but that thing's got a beard. I know for a fact, and he's all fanned out and everything. So smacked him, dropped him. At 6:04, legal light was 6:02. Picked him up, FaceTime my wife. I'm like, I'm on my way home. So
that's awesome.
It was literally a 15-20 minute hunt, and I was taking. It was not light enough for pictures yet, like for good pictures. So I waited and went to this other spot to take pictures just because I knew there's some pretty trees. And I could hear another gobble. So I was like, dude, I'm going to use this freaking turkey as a decoy. So I fanned it out. And I posted this on my Instagram so people can go look at the reel. I fanned it out, hid behind the fan, and called it in. Dude, got this guy in at 2 yards. This Tom just strutting in and just hanging out with me for an hour. And it was the funniest thing I ever done. That was my whole hunt, and it was probably one of the best ones I've done.
I got to go back and check that video because I was just scrolling and I saw you had a bird on the ground, but I didn't know if it was like one of those throwback, like, looking forward to turkey season or if you like had actually got it. I meant to message you. Like,
oh yeah, I shot that one and then used it as a decoy. I got a few DMs like, dude, that's kind of messed up. I'm like, I was taking pictures and all I just fanned it out and laid down behind it.
Listen, yeah, is it any more messed up than anything else we do to fool these birds?
No,
but
you know,
yeah,
that's
too funny, man.
So I was wishing I brought my bow. I just didn't have time. This isn't sighted in past 20, 30 yards. And
listen, man, you don't have to tell me. I'm a big believer that turkeys need to be shot with a shotgun in the face. So I've made too many good quote unquote shots with a bow and had turkeys escape me. I'm an all shotgun. Yeah, when people ask me what's the best arrow for turkey hunting, I tell them 3.5-inch Magnum 12 gauge.
Yes.
But
yes, dude, my shoulder's bruised. I had it sitting at a weird angle, like on the outside of my shoulder bone. And it bruised. I'm like, oh my frig! I feel like a freaking wimp. One shot bruised my shoulder.
We were hunting with buddies 2 years ago, and I borrowed somebody's shotgun. I'd never shot it before, and we were set up in just like those Walmart folding chairs in like the blind. And I was that dude that shot and rolled backwards after the shot. I was that dude. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's funny. Turkey
awesome,
hunting's
dude.
Fun, but.
I love turkey hunting. I didn't get to go this year, and I'm so bummed about it. But
we're gonna have to do like a turkey hunt tour. Go throughout the country and shoot all the different birds.
I like this idea, and yeah, maybe if we go together, we'll be able to sell it to the wives because we'll have brand new babies next year. So it'll be a little easier leverage. Maybe
we'll just drop them off at like Disney World in Florida.
Perfect, dude. Yeah, you come here. Our season's earlier than yours anyway. So, yeah, that's how we'll sell it. We'll hunt the morning, and then we'll just go to Disney in the afternoon. Perfect.
Yeah, that's money. Anyway, well, that's adds a half hour to that sweet conversation we got with Scott coming up. So here's a good intro.
Yeah, if you're still hanging around, you're getting a little bit of everything this episode.
Absolutely. So yeah, I just want to say thanks everybody for jumping on and listening to Scott's episode is money. I'm stoked for you guys to hear this. So hopefully you guys learn a lot about this dialed archery site, Arxos, because both AJ and I are basically in love with it, I guess you could say.
Valid. Yep.
All right, and we're sending. So I'm AJ.
I'm Braxton.
And we've got Scott Bakken on here of Dialed Archery. Scott, you're a bit of a man of mystery. Pleasure to finally meet you via podcast. I think you're the last of the Delta Force of Dialed for us to meet and speak with. So I appreciate you taking some time to come on here.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to be joining you guys, and I guess last but not least, so either I'm the most important or the least important. I guess it depends on the day, but
you're our first
we should
guest.
Save the best for last.
Yeah.
Well, it's first guest, but yeah, now it can only go uphill from here. So
yeah, we don't know
can only get
what
better.
episode number this will be, but you're our first guest that we've spoken to on the podcast. So that's
well,
big.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Well, Scott, I know you've got a bit of a history in the industry, so why don't you give us like a little bio for those listening that like aren't as familiar with you, and give us a rundown on Dialed, because I know people listening have probably heard me talk about it as like a tester, but I want to hear it from the founders. I'm sure they'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so I guess it's starting with a little bit about me. I mean, it's kind of tale as old as time. Little boy falls in love with archery and wants to make a career out of it, and 30 something years later, here I am. But I mean, like I said, ever since I was a little kid, archery's always been something that I was very passionate about. And I actually didn't come from a hunting family. My dad didn't hunt or anything like that. I actually fell in love with archery just on my own from watching Robin Hood movies, and I just thought it was so badass that this dude was just destroying people with a bow and arrow, and shooting them at 100 yards, and whatever. So yeah, again, I kind of fell in love with the outdoors and archery specifically at a young age, and then just as I got older, I had an uncle that was a big bow hunter, and I followed him around everywhere and wanted to learn as much as I could, and he still brings up stories, about how I was that little obnoxious kid always tugging on him, like, because I would read, I was a sponge, like I would look at all, North American whitetail, like all these hunting magazines. I'd be like, what do you think about real tree this or mossy oak this? And he'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I don't know what any of that means, but so, eventually my dad got into archery, and then we became an archery family. I have a younger brother that works in the industry as well. And just throughout the years, just, got more and more experienced and involved. And in high school, started working for a local archery shop. And I actually wasn't even legal to work in the state. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I wasn't even legally like allowed to work yet. You had to be 14 to get a worker's permit, and I was 13. So they would stick me in the back room, and I would huff fumes fletching arrows, which probably explains a lot today. But I loved it, and there was nothing. I always just wanted to learn more and more and more. And when I got into college, it was it's what are you going to do with your life? That's what everybody's going to ask you. And I wanted to be all these different things, but as I got closer to graduation, I really wanted to, like, I had gotten a little bit of taste of the archery industry. My uncle that got me into archery owned a small archery company, so I got to experience ATA. Actually, the first ATA I ever went to was the first year it was ATA. And so I'd kind of gotten a little insider look as to what the archery industry was like. And, so I knew I wanted to do something in the outdoors, and specifically archery. So right out of college, I got hired as a manufacturer's sales representative for archery. We represented at the time, I think, 15 different archery companies. So did a lot of traveling, visiting archery shops, and it just from there, it was just adding gas to the fire. It's just I wanted more and more and more, and eventually found myself living in Pennsylvania, working for Kinsey's as a buyer, managing thousands and thousands of archery SKUs. And, that was a whole new experience, being on that side of the fence. But, again, I wanted more, and, eventually had the opportunity to move back to Wisconsin and work for an archery manufacturing company that was family owned, and did that for a number of years. And, again, just wanted more. Like, it's just like I kept like building this resume, but yet I still felt like I had farther, I still had farther, like there's more I wanted to experience. And the next step was, owning an archery company. And it was something that I always dreamed about, but it's always, you always get filled with self-doubt. Like, I growing up, like I was never a smart kid. Like, school was never my thing. Like, I'm a mediocre, like at anything. Like, there's really nothing that I excel at. Like, I mean, I always joke, like, I wish there was one thing that like I was really, really good at. Like some guys are really good at working at cars. Some guys are really good at like construction. Some guys are really good at, like Jordan Taylor, like they're really good at marketing. Like, and so, like I said, the next thing was to, start a company, but I'm like, am I even capable of doing that? Like, am I smart enough? Am I dedicated enough? And how do you even do that? Like, whatever. And, as luck would have it, Jordan and Taylor, who are the, second and third owners of, or I should say the other two parts of Dialed, we met along the way and got to know each other. And it was, we learned very quick that like there was a lot we had in common, even though personality wise, like Taylor and I are very similar personality wise, but there's a lot of qualities we all had in common, and we all had a love for archery. We were all perfectionists, and we all just wanted to continue to grow. So the idea of Dialed, and we didn't even know what it was going to be called to beginning, but we we were all ready for a new challenge. And when the conversations kind of started, it was like this is there's just too many signs, like there was just too many, like, you should do this, you should do this. There's just all these little things like on the daily basis. And Taylor and I would call each other and be like, dude, this happened today. Like, it's a sign. And so finally, we made the decision. And yeah, I mean, we're coming up on almost a year since that decision was made. And, again, we really had no clue what we were going to do. We just knew we wanted to do something. So yeah, that was kind of how everything got started. And like I said, we're almost a year into it already.
That's awesome. I like how you say you're not, just kind of mediocre at everything, but it's just, I mean, it goes to show your determination just to figure it out no matter what the heck it is. You didn't know what you wanted, but you knew you wanted something different. And so I like that you just kind of pushed forward and found what you want, and you're going for it.
Well, and that's one thing, like, and it is true, like, growing up, like, I was never good at sports. I was mediocre at sports. Like, but the one thing ever since I was a little kid is, like, when there was something I wanted or something I wanted to do, you could never keep me from doing it. Like, if I wanted it, I was going to figure out a way to get it, whether it was like, like a new toy or a new hunting gear or whatever. Like, it didn't matter once I set my mind to it. Like, you can't keep me from doing it. And, again, that was the one quality that all three of us have in common is, like, we each bring something to the table, but the one thing we all, have in common is the determination. And, we may not have everything figured out right now and, like, at the time, but we'll figure it out, and it's just, so it really, it's been a complete, I mean, it's been awesome. Obviously, the grass isn't always greener. There's pluses and minuses to everything, but it's been great just, taking everything day by day and kind of learning as you go, but also, that throughout my career, like, I've looked back and been like, and especially now that I'm older and, I can look back on 20 years of history, I can literally look at every experience and be like, I learned this, I learned that. And you kind of gather this little arsenal of knowledge, right? But, that every step along the way, I always felt like, I should be doing something. Like, I feel like I said before, like, I want more. Like, I don't feel like I'm utilizing my full potential. And I don't even know, like, I don't even know what that means, but it just felt like, you have that fire inside of you and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? Am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be doing that? And it can be a real mental, like, it can really start messing with you. Right. But it's like now, again, when Taylor and Jordan and I kind of start talking about everything, like, and Taylor and I, we talk about all the time, the one thing that we had on our side was timing. And, again, almost a year ago, it was like the timing was perfect. Like, we were all ready for a new challenge. Like, I was ready for a risk. Like, it was just kind of like the timing was there. And that's normally like what, like, kills most people or most business ideas is timing, right? It's not really the idea or anything like that. It's just the timing was wrong. And, when we kind of, conversation started, like, time started passing and, we'd talk a little bit here and there. And then finally it's just like, we kind of gotta either got to do this or we walk away from it and we never talk about it again, and it was that day. I'll never forget that day. It was very scary. Like, cause I mean, here, like, we all, like, we had, well, Taylor and Jordan, they still have Captured Creative, but, like, I had a good job, I had a good house, like, life was good, but it was comfortable. Right. And I always believe, like, once you get comfortable, you slowly start dying, like and it's a saying that, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's just kind of how I've always, like, looked at life is, the more comfortable you are, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And that was the point in my life I was at. Like, I literally felt like kind of a fish out of water. Like, I was suffocating. And I needed to do something to, kind of shock the system. And I was like, well, hell, let's, cash in everything, sell my house, cash in my 401ks and start an archery company.
It's super cool, and I think that's a message that probably resonates with a lot of people. I know Brax and I have talked about that offline. Like, that's kind of why we both started our pages, right? Is we just
Yeah.
saw something more and wanted to do it. And I remember a specific day where I was in my 9 to 5 in my office having like a anxiety attack because it's like,
Yeah.
what is my purpose? I'm supposed to be doing more than this kind of deal.
Yeah. Dude,
Um,
I know the feeling. It's a very toxic and um it's a crappy feeling because
yeah,
like as guys, like we think we're these tough, like badass dudes, like, but you've never felt so weak or so small when like you're in a situation you're like, I know I want more but I don't know how to get out, right? Like you feel trapped. And like there were so many nights like, and I would drown my sorrows in alcohol and be like, this is my way of handling it. And but like you can't see a way out, right? And it's like, what am I complaining about? Like why am I so, like, I should be happy with what I have, which I wasn't. It's not like I wasn't, but it's, because anybody would like love to be in the position I'm in, but I just felt like I needed more, like I was meant for more, like, um, so it's a very real feeling and it's a very scary feeling. But I, through all that, once like I made the jump, I'll never forget that first day. Like after I quit my job, I'd sold my house, and luckily I had like, um, I had some time and I had a backup plan to at least keep me busy and make some money. I moved out to Wyoming and guided for, a couple months, and it was one of the greatest things I ever did. Like I had guided a little bit in the past, but it was really just like a refreshing like experience. It was like a recharge, a reboot before getting into Dialed, because at that time we still didn't even really know. Like, I mean, we were working on Dialed, but it was like, are we really going to do this? It was kind of the point where like we had time, we had some money invested, but we easily could have been like, screw this, like, let's not do this. But um, I remember that first day after walking away from everything, and I woke up that next morning, and like it literally, like that feeling, it was like I was reborn again. I mean, it was like the most amazing, like freeing feeling I had ever felt. And literally that day and ever since then, it's like every day I've woken up feeling I have a purpose. Like I know what I'm supposed to be doing today. Like whatever I do today, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So through all that dark and crappy time, came the good, the light, like all that stuff. And, and it's been, Taylor and Jordan, like are part of that. If it wasn't for them, who knows what I'd probably be face down in a gutter someplace. I don't know. But walking the streets of Vegas trying to make a couple bucks. But so no, it's like I said, it's crazy just how you can go from such a low spot to such a high. But I guess that's life.
Well, Scott, you mentioned something earlier that I think is super kind of on point with where Dialed's going. But you mentioned, if you're not growing, you're dying, and
Hmm.
it's kind of ironic because not ironic, but it's right in line with what you were saying. Because at ATA this year, just through walking around talking to different companies and different site manufacturers, a lot of them kind of, I didn't know they knew who I was or were even aware of me, but they knew I was somehow affiliated with Dialed, and so they were kind of poking around, and
Yeah.
it was just interesting. You could tell like some of them were very apprehensive about this new company coming on the scene,
Oh yeah.
and all the features and everything that the Arxos is bringing to the table. And what was funny to me was, what you guys are bringing out with the Arxos. They're features that guys like Braxton and I have been begging companies for years.
Yeah.
And no one has responded. They've just their answer to everything is like, let's throw another bracket on an already complicated
Yeah.
device instead of like simplifying things. And, I think that's definitely true. And you kind of like read that in the room, like if it, and when they'd ask me, it's like, well, look, these guys they're innovating, right? Like we're getting to go in, they're taking end user feedback and they're putting it into the design from the ground up, not just putting a Band-Aid on something that, is kind of like good enough. This is what you guys sort of asked for. So I think you guys are already making waves for sure.
Yeah,
Not to blow
and
too
that
much smoke up your butts. I know you guys are the title sponsor and everything.
Yeah. That's part of our contract, right? Like 30-second.
I mean,
but
you paid for the microphones, but we're not biased or anything.
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could have actually got you a lot better microphones, but we didn't. But well, and it's. I mean, yeah, we, when we decided that, again, because there was a period where we really didn't know what the hell we were going to do. Like we were all excited because, we had this new path, but like if I had $1 for every idea I thought that was good, I wouldn't have needed Dialed. But when it became official, we said from the very, very beginning, we didn't want to be just another Me Too brand. And again, with my background, with Taylor and Jordan's background, with, being, content creators, they've worked with a lot of companies in the industry. And it's just, like you said, you'd walk ATA and, there's a lot of good products out there, but it's just kind of the same regurgitated stuff. Like it's the same thing. Right. And, even new products, like, they'd come to ATA with new for 2022. And it's like, well, you took last year's product and you just added a new bracket to it or something. Like that's not new. You know what I mean? And I get, I get like to innovate, it's a huge risk, right? Because you don't know how it's going to be perceived. And for a pre-existing company that has built this reputation, for however many years, that's a big risk to try to come up with a product and then have it not be perceived well. But, again, if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's like, do you just want to keep treading water and maintaining, or do you want to push the envelope? And that's, again, like anybody that knows me, that knows Taylor, that knows Jordan, like we're not the mediocrity type of people. Like we're gonna push buttons. Like we're gonna shake things up. Like I've been a thorn and a side to a lot of people throughout my life, and that's not going to change, and that's just kind of who Dialed is. Like, we kind of want to take this kind of stale industry. Well, and I shouldn't say stale industry, but just like a stale category, and flip it up and smash it on its head and be like, let's try some new stuff. Right. And it may work, it may not, but at least we're going to try. And, so that was kind of the mantra behind Dialed is, just not being another company, but trying some new things. And, with the Arxos specifically, a lot of that stuff is like, it was stuff that like I wanted to try throughout the years, but it was always told it couldn't be done or it wouldn't be worth it or whatever. And then, with the addition to our team with like TJ and Kyle, who are our engineers, like it, all of a sudden we had this site where we're like, holy crap, like this is totally different. I mean, are there some similarities? Yeah. Like, is it a site? Yes. It's going to do the same thing as everybody else's, but we go about it a different way, right? Like, everything is what is our design, and even just little stuff like the top level, that was Taylor and I, like, why the hell have we been putting levels in the bottom of scope housings for decades? I don't get it. Like, whose idea was that, and why did we just run with that? It's way more convenient to have it at the top. So it was just little stuff like that. Like we spent more time just kind of picking stuff apart and being like, why have we always done this, or why has this always been done that way? And I get like that's kind of just how things are going to be going forward too. Is we're not afraid to ask questions, we're not afraid to challenge things and try new things. So like we've heard, it's small industry, so we hear rumors, we hear talk, and I don't know, it's fine. We've kind of painted a target on our back, but we don't care.
Yeah, you know you're doing something right if you piss somebody off.
That's the way I look at it, right? Like, I mean, it's actually kind of if you view us as a threat, I'm almost kind of flattered, like, because
Yeah.
we're just getting started. Like, if you think we're a threat now, give us a year.
Yeah, that's the biggest compliment somebody can give you.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
hunting world and like bow hunting archery industry, I feel like there's so many companies that are so old school. Like I've talked to companies and they're, just as simple as, doing a featured post or something and just talking how exclusive they are, if you shoot a Hoyt, you can't discuss, think, even talk nothing about any other companies. And that's something that I've kind of tried to endure throughout my time on the internet is change that up is
Yeah.
if I hate something I'll let you know, if I like it I'll let you know, and I don't want anybody to tell me what I can and can't say. So I've talked to so many people and they're like, dude, you can't they sent you that bow, you can't say that about it. I'm like, well, what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
the whole point is to
Yeah.
figure out what's working and what's not. And that was one thing when I talked to Taylor and Jordan is I was like, hey, I don't want to be exclusive with anything. You guys cool? Like, you could tell us and say it on public, like what you hate and what you want to change. And
Yeah.
that's the open mind that like I really, really appreciate. And like that's made the biggest difference. Just seeing how you guys view the industry and wanting to make a huge dent.
Well, and I think, I mean, I've and Jordan Taylor, we all feel the same way that like no feedback is worse than negative feedback. So like if we send you guys like an Arxos and we're like, hey, test this out and give us your feedback, and you guys are like, yeah, this thing sucks, it's a piece of shit. I'd be like, all right, valid. What don't you like about it? And then we go back and we're like, hey, these guys didn't like this, and this. So I mean, that's how you, that's how you grow, right? And again, growing up in this industry, it's always bothered me how we're so segregated, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much separation, and I get it. Like we're all competitors, like we're all competitive, we're all fighting for this small little chunk of a fairly small pie. I mean, because the archery industry is not that big, like as a whole, compared to other industries. And there's a lot of players in that game. But, it's always bugged me, like just how, like you brought up, like if you shoot a Hoyt bow, it's like you have to hate Matthew shooters, you know, and it's like why, like if it wasn't for Hoyt, Matthews wouldn't have certain features. If it wasn't for Matthews, Hoyt wouldn't have certain features. Like we're all kidding ourselves if we don't get ideas from other like competitors, right? Because if you see the competition doing something that's working, like of course you're going to try to like get into that game, but it's weird. And that's in we like if you could hear some of the behind the scenes like conversations, like especially with social media, like there's a difference between constructive feedback, like you telling me, hey man, like really appreciate what you guys did with the Arxos, but I didn't really care for this, I didn't really care for this. Okay, like we're cool, like I appreciate your feedback, we'll take it into consideration. But then there's the wrong way of doing it, and getting on social media and be like, this thing sucks, like I don't know anything about it but it sucks. Like, all right, well, I don't care about you because you just said it sucks but you don't know anything about it. Like that's like it's just it's just become so like weird, but so like behind the scenes, we get like comments like that, like this thing isn't worth $500, like these guys don't know what they're doing, like you don't even know us, you don't, like you've never even seen it, so how can you have an opinion about it, like. So and again, it's just times have changed from, I mean, even I mean 10 years ago, like if you had asked me, like I never would think we'd be where we are as an industry. Like it seemed like we were such like an old school industry for so long, and then all of a sudden we skipped ahead 10 years and now it's like where we are, and it's really tough. But like with us, we just again, like we don't mind competition, but we just try to stick to our own game, keep our heads down and stay in our lane, and we're going to do what we want. And if you don't like it, then we're sorry but we're not sorry. So but I don't think anybody should be like critical or, be afraid of like criticism. Because again, like negative feedback is better than no feedback. If you're not getting any feedback, then you're probably not doing something right, so I don't know. It's just, it's just kind of weird how things have ended up, where they're at just with all that. And again, it's just like the industry is just so separated, like and it just seems like we're getting farther and farther away. And, all of a sudden one year everybody's kind of getting closer. And then the next year it's just like, like I'll use crossbows, for example. Like if you like crossbows, you're anti like archery. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely, and I think I almost chalk it up to a generational thing, because it's almost like those companies, the dividing line, you can clearly see it. It's like those companies that prioritize magazine advertisements, and then those companies that value social media advertisements, and that's kind of like the generational dividing line there, and what kind of separates us, and then we all splinter off of that. I think as a whole, it's, with the exception of some of the meme pages out there, it seems to be getting more positive. But to your point, definitely, like, because I get some of the negative stuff on the gear that I cover, and it's usually from people that don't have hands-on experience. Like they see just marketing materials. They've never handled the product. It happened to me with my arrows last year. Like I was one of the first people to get the first production batch, and I immediately had people so as soon as I got it out of the box from Easton, I posted a picture, and I had people messaging me like, oh, those things break, and I'm like, oh, like, have you shot them? Like, where do you guys have pictures? Like, what are you seeing? And there's never a reply, right? Like, it's just you're basing it on who knows what. And so that one of the things, like getting to work with guys like you guys and other people in the industry, is you realize the timetables and how much smaller and how much goes into all of this stuff too. Like it's a good company it's almost like a race car team, right? Like you have your designers, your engineers, and your race car drivers, and you need all of those guys to be giving feedback to one another to make those changes. Because if you only have the engineer driving, sometimes like Kyle, I love Kyle. That guy he can take a crap arrow and tune it perfectly, but he puts in way more time than I would ever be willing to put into tuning an arrow. But he's a perfectionist, and you need those guys. I don't know where I was going with that.
But you almost, to your point, I mean, there's a lot, like, I mean, to your point, like, all I'll say is I'm glad Kyle's on our team. Like, I would hate to be competing with Kyle, because, like, we call him the shaft master. I mean, that dude has arrow building down to not even a science. Like, but I mean, he's more than that though too. I mean, the dude is like a very well-rounded guy. But yeah, to the same extent, like you almost need somebody the polar opposite of Kyle, like me. That's just kind of like, that's good. It like, I mean, if I can hit a paper plate at 60 yards, I'm happy. Like, man, like I'm a hunter. I'm not a target shooter. I'm a hunter. Like, I want to kill something. Like, I don't want to shoot a 12 ring, whatever. So like, but you compliment. And that's like, you look at, Taylor and Jordan and I, like, again, we have a lot of similarities, but we also are very different, but that rounds us out. Right. But, to your point, like going back, just from like an industry standpoint, and, I know there's like people that don't like what we're doing, and that's fine. Like we didn't start Dial to satisfy everybody. But in an industry like ours that is mainly comprised or saturated with a lot of old school companies that have been around for 20, 30 years, those aren't the companies that are going to grow the industry, right? Those are the companies that have gotten the industry to where we are today. But you need new blood, you need young blood, you need fresh ideas, you need people that are willing to take a risk and willing to push the envelope in order to keep, the industry moving. And, anybody that doesn't support that, it's kind of like, well, you're not helping the industry. Like you're in it, quite frankly, you're being very freaking selfish, because you're only thinking about your little piece of the puzzle. You're not thinking about the industry as a whole. And again, we're all competitors. We're all in business to be successful, make money. But that's the one thing that, like with Dialed too, is like, of course, like we dream of, being millionaires and having our big farms and, you know, being rock stars and stuff. But when we got going, we also, and it's very important to me, but as a whole, to give back. Like, the archery industry has provided me a very fulfilling life. Like, I've got to do a lot of really cool stuff, hunt a lot of different places, but it's an industry that I've lived in my whole life. And so that's important to us, is to not only do what's best for Dialed, but, you know, to help out the industry wherever we can. And, you know, again, like, if we can encourage like young people to, you know, start companies or be like a source of information or just help any way we can, we're going to. Even, you know, again, there's nothing wrong with friendly competition. Capitalism is a great thing. And if we don't have that, our industry is gonna, I mean, it's gonna die. You know, it's gonna be full of nothing but investment capital owned companies, and in the end, that hurts the end consumer. So, you know, it's kind of like this hamster wheel that we're all just running on, trying to, you know, figure stuff out. But, you know, again, back to the point, like with, you know, all the negativity and stuff. And I mean, I'll be honest, like, you know, I can be pretty judgmental sometimes. And, you know, I'm not on social media. Like, I don't have Instagram or Facebook, just because if I did, I would probably lose my crap and show up at somebody's front door sometime. But, you know, I see stuff. I'm like, man, like, that's a dumbass idea. Like, why the hell, like, you know, whatever. And then I find I'm like, no, you don't know them. You don't know the product. Like, for all you know, it could be, and I've said that, and next week it's like the coolest thing, and it's what all the kids are using. I'm like, oh shoot, you know, good for them. So yeah, I think, you know, like you said, it's like the generational thing. But even, I mean, some of the old timers are like some of the worst ones. You know,
Yeah.
like, they're some of the worst keyboard warriors. So I don't know. I guess all you can do is just laugh and, you know, like I said, keep your head down. But we, you know, like Taylor, for example.
More time.
Yeah, well, I mean, if and when I ever get to retire, you're not going to find me sitting behind a computer. Like, I'm going to be at the local country club, sitting by the pool, checking out all the, you know, young moms and stuff, smoking a cigar. But, you know, that's like Taylor. So Taylor runs our social media page. You know, Taylor's the brand and marketing director. And I, you know, again, I'm not on social media, but he'll send us, you know, shots of like comments, you know, that people made. And, you know, of course, me, like, it's behind closed doors. So, you know, they'll be, you know, talking crap about our site, and I'm like, they've never even seen it. And so then I get all fired up about it. But, you know, it's all, a lot of it's just jokingly. But, you know, it's kind of hard not to too, because it's your brand, right? I mean, it's no different than you guys, right? Like, it's your brand. Like, we've stuck a lot into this, you know. I mean, like I said, my whole life is riding on this. So, you know, of course you get a little emotional. It's just, as long as you don't make decisions based on that emotion, you know, that's fine. So
You can't go smack Chris Rock in front of everybody at the Oscars.
oh, Jesus.
Which we'll probably release this episode way later. That's not even going to be in the news anymore. But
No, it'll be so like everybody like, wait, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. I just like, I think like, I think like, if that were to happen at ATA, like, who would be the two people it would, like, who would be smacking who, you know, like that's what I want to see, you know, like.
There'd be a couple of good, like, interesting, if we had like a who would win in a fight in the industry, that'd be a great like March Madness bracket that somebody should do one year.
I wouldn't even want to see it, because it'd be like so embarrassing. Like, it'd be such like a disappointment. Like, everybody would build it up, and it'd be like the main event, and then it would last for like 5 seconds. We'd be like, well, I guess we should go back to work now. Like, I think I'd rather been vacuuming my booth and watching that. So, but yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. That just kind of goes to show you, like humanity and just society and just freaking people, man.
Well, I think one of the things you said that stuck out was just you know, you see something, and if, you know, growing the industry and what the kids are using, and like I think that's something that I constantly, as we all age up, right? Like, you have to remind yourself, like, if you're serious about growing this lifestyle that we love and this industry that we love, you have to be cognizant of passing it down. That's something we know how to do as hunters, but that's not always something we do a great job of, I feel like, in the archery industry, at least, in terms of like product and marketing. Because it seems, I mean, talking to most companies, right, their demographics are primarily like that 25 to 35 or 45
Yeah.
to 55 age group, right?
Right.
And 98% male, right? So
Right.
as a whole, we're not doing like a great job. I think it's getting better. You know, I'll give a shout out to Black Rifle because all of their female employees have bows, and they've been showing up to every single tack, and they're just
Yeah.
badass women crushing it on the course. And I know that was one of the things that my wife walking the course with me 2 years ago made her want to pick up a bow. And
Yeah.
I think having those examples is cool. But yeah, I'm psyched to see what you guys do over the next couple of years, and you got to expect you're going to ruffle some feathers when you come out with a premium product right off the
Right.
bat. But what people don't realize, or what some people don't think about, is like you need a Formula One, right? Like you need a NASCAR. That technology like trickles down, right? So
Yeah.
you know, it's I'm super stoked. And yeah, tell it like what are some of the, I mean, if you can, like other than you know, some of the add-ons to the Arxos, like what is kind of some of the vision for some of the future product lines that you guys are tossing around?
You know, it's funny you bring that up because we were just talking about how we need to have, you know, between, you know, the three owners, but then our leadership team, which is, you know, me, Taylor, Jordan, Kyle, and TJ, like we really need to like, I mean, we joke all the time, you know, like we should do this, we should do that. But like, we need to really sit down and figure out, okay, like what's our 10-year plan? You know, what is our vision? But, you know, obviously, you know, Dialed Archery, you know, it leads that, you know, we're going to have more archery products. You know, we still have a lot of proving to do, not only to ourselves, but to consumers and whatnot. So there's a lot of work that we still have left to do in our current, you know, lane that we're in. But I mean, hopefully we can build off of, you know, the sight category, get into some other, you know, archery accessory, you know, categories, and really just kind of build out Dialed Archery as a whole. And ultimately kind of be just like a one-stop shop, you know. So if you get a new bow, you know, you can be decked out, you know, totally in Dialed Archery. But, you know, there's nothing really that's like secretive because we're still, you know, like we've said this whole time, like we're building this airplane in the air, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon, even though like we should have a little bit more of like a concrete plan. But like this sounds cheesy, but with the team that we have in place, I mean, I don't think there's anything that we couldn't do. If it's something that we want to do bad enough, we'll figure it out. I mean, we have two of the best engineers that, you know, I think we could find. You know, we have a great team, so I seriously don't think there's anything that we couldn't do if we wanted to. But, you know, the focus is going to be, you know, getting the Arxos solidified, making sure that's as best as it can be. You know, we're launching that. Hopefully we're going to start shipping pre-orders in June. That's our goal. And then from there, just building that out. You know, the first introductory site is going to be our Stub XR with the dual pin, and then build off that, have a 3 and 5 pin, you know, shorten to follow that. And then, you know, really just make sure that that's 100%, like, you know, we're 100% satisfied that before we move on. And then from there, you know, again, just kind of keep building out that category. And I mean, we'll see. I mean, it sounds crazy, you know, 12 months seems like a long time, but it really isn't. But it is, you know, a lot can change in 12 months. So.
And you guys are super responsive to feedback too. And that's
yeah.
I mean, from the time I got looped in to the very early CAD drawings to, I remember like multi-pin indicator and the pick rail wasn't even like on the table. And you guys got enough feedback from people on social media that, I mean, now I've seen TJ and the newest designs, and you guys have been advertising it.
Yeah.
I know Brax has got his new RX-7 behind him that he's super stoked to get a pick mounted Arxos on.
That's all I'm waiting for.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming soon. So you won't be waiting. Well, you'll be waiting a little bit, like, to get one, but I mean, to actually see it, you know, and on our 3D customizer on our website. But yeah, you know, and that's like we keep saying, like, I mean, that's just kind of the beauty with like Dialed is, you know, again, going back to your question as far as like what's to come. Again, like there's a lot we want to do. Like, I mean, there is no ceiling. You know, we can do whatever we want, and like, that's what we keep saying. Like, we can do whatever the hell we want. Like, Jordan is a big cyclist. Like, if we want to build a bicycle, we can go build a bicycle. TJ and Kyle will figure it out, like, so I mean, it's really sky's the limit, man. Obviously archery is our passion and stuff, but it'd be cool to see Dialed just kind of get into some other stuff too. So who knows? But yeah, the pick rail mount, I mean, obviously the dovetail was kind of the easy target, the low hanging fruit, because that style of sight has just it's just gotten more and more popular. But as soon as we showcase that, and we've advertised that dovetail was pretty much made for the V3X by Matthews, then it's all of a sudden all the Hoyt shooters, what about the pick rail mount? You're not making one for the pick rail mount? It's like yeah, no, we are. Like, Jesus, like, just so yeah, that for anybody out there, all the Hoyt shooters, it's coming. And like I said, we'll have that up on our website here pretty soon. So but yeah, I mean, that's like the most exciting thing is when we talk and we have these ideas. And then, I mean, again, TJ and Kyle, like, I can't give them enough credit, because once we start talking about an idea, I mean, it's not even 24 hours and like we're seeing a render of it. And it's like, what, like, I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, for me to figure out what I'm doing in 12 hours, like, these guys have, like, so it's awesome, but, and it's exciting. And, we're all excited just to, see where this thing goes. And, again, we don't really have any clue, but we're figuring it out.
Yeah, I was seeing I think it was just on your guys' story. You guys had posted a teaser picture of the pick rail mount piece, and I just like held my finger down on it. I'm like, dude, that's all I want. Like, go on the website. Yeah. Oh, it's not on there yet. It'll be not there soon.
Yeah, not yet. No, it's coming. So we had a few, a few minor tweaks that TJ and Kyle wanted to make before it was official. So, and that's the other thing too is with those guys, but then with all of us, like I said, we're all perfectionists. So it's, where a lot of companies I think would have been like, oh, that's good enough, like, months ago, we just continue to, like, pick apart everything. Or like, can we do this better? Can we do this differently? Can we use a different screw on this? And it's just, at some point, like, you can only do so much where you almost start doing more, you almost start going backwards. But, so that's why, we're probably moving a little slower than, most companies would, but it's because, like we've said this whole time, Taylor's been vocal about it on social media. Like, we're not going to send anything out that we're not 100% satisfied with. So if it does take a little bit longer, or, we're not shipping as fast as others, there's a reason for it. We're not cutting corners on anything. So, anybody that buys something from us knows that they're getting, like, top-notch quality stuff.
Yeah. Before you were shooting the Arxos, before it was a prototype or even anything, what did you find, like, what sparked, I guess, within yourself, like, dude, this is what I want to change? Like, what's like one key thing that you might have brought to the table where you're like, this is something that I want to create different?
It's hard to say, because our Gen 1s, well, actually, you got a Gen 1, didn't you? On your unboxing you did?
Yeah, I got it on that Expedite behind me. I have the Gen 1.
Yeah, well, yours is like one of the only ones that held up.
Barely. I got a different third axis on there.
Well, mine's filled with packaging tape, so to keep the tolerances. No, I mean, I wouldn't say there was like one thing where we're like, man, we got to change that. That first round of samples we got was, like, to say that was a learning experience is an understatement, because here again, we have two of the best engineers that you could have. We have nothing but trust in them, and they're doing all these designings, these drawings, whatever. They're sending them to us. We're like, looks good. And then we go to place our sample order, which is, $30-something thousand, and we get them. And I was at Taylor's house, and Taylor and I were up till like 3 a.m, and I had a Dremel tool grinding on these parts, trying to get them to fit. We were filling gaps with packaging tape, trying to get them. And basically, we have 30 grand worth of paperweights sitting around now. We were able to squeak a few of them out that we felt okay with people shooting. So, but I like I said, I don't think there was really one thing where we're like, man, we got to change this. It was a bunch of little things that were like, all right, we got to tighten the tolerances on this. We got to, probably the hardest, at least that I can remember. Taylor may give you a different answer. Kyle and TJ may give you a different answer. Jordan might give you a different answer. But I think like one of the hardest ones was our dial lock. Everybody to lock their dials, they use a wing nut or some sort of locking knob, and we use a pressure a switch, a button to lock the dial down. Getting that fit right was tough, super tough. So it wasn't something that we were going to change. It was just we knew it was going to be a bugger and something that we were going to have to. There you go. It was just something we were going to have to pay extra attention to and give a little more attention to. But like I said, I don't think there was really one thing. Like there was nothing where we're like, well, that's not going to work. We got to scrap that. It was just, there was just a lot of, change, like little minor tweaks that we were going to have to make to stuff. And, like I said, we're still making minor tweaks here and there just to make sure everything's perfect.
I've gotten a lot of messages from people like, I would buy a prototype. And I was like, it's not ready yet, man. It's not.
we especially now, like with everybody, like every day, like now, I mean, that's the big question we get is when are these shipping? And, like I had a guy last week email me because he just got his new bow and he'd been waiting like 3 or 4 months for it. And he was all psyched. He's like, do you have any sights available? And I was like, no. He's like, you don't even have prototypes. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, we got some prototypes. He's like, I'll buy a prototype. I'm like, no.
People hear prototype and they think like Batman, James Bond, like Q is delivering them some like epic.
Yeah.
Prototype in real life is like duct tape and 3D printed parts.
And that's exactly it. That's and I mean, it was crazy because I mean, we all ran prototypes last fall, and yeah. I mean, we had a couple kills with them and stuff. So, we weren't. It's not like they were self-exploding or anything like that. But it's just a process, and it's when people get excited about stuff. I'm that way. Like I don't like waiting for stuff. That's I want it and I want it now. But again, like we're being very methodical and strategic and just making sure everything's the best it is. But I mean, we appreciate and we love that people are that excited about it that they'd buy a prototype. It's just I wouldn't be comfortable sending anybody a prototype. Although now the Gen 3 prototypes are pretty. I mean, we're calling those production grade, but we still have yet to get those fully assembled and tested. So we're getting there. It's just every day we're getting closer and closer and progressing and learning. So it's like I said, we're getting there.
And we'll probably release this episode around the time those next gen prototypes get out. So if that wasn't in the intro, it'll be on an episode to come for sure. We'll do a whole breakdown of the updates to that because that Gen 1, like it was everything I was expecting. I got it literally an hour before I left for a whitetail hunt in November, so I didn't hunt with it because I was like, I don't know. Like, it's just I don't like changing anything that quick, like an hour before a hunt.
No.
But yeah, I mean, just seeing the design drawings, and that was the other cool thing, like you guys taking feedback, and even with the 3D printed parts and everything, like I dropped this thing. I forgot to put the set screw. So this thing literally slid out a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago now and landed right on the housing. And, I bent it back into place and it was fine. But yeah, I'm super psyched for those production models. But props to you guys for getting that feedback turned around so quickly.
Yeah, no. And that's kind of the great thing with our team is, I mean, we talk every day and, everybody's sharing feedback that they get. So, I mean, we can respond pretty quickly. And, we're very fortunate with the manufacturing facilities, our machine shops, like, they're 100% team dialed and love what we're doing. So, they bust their asses for us. And, and that's been, again, looking back, like when Dialed officially launched and, we still were hesitant. It's like, do we really think this is as cool as we think it is? but it's just every day you're reminded that like we're doing the right thing. Cause I mean, just the excitement and the support, and I mean, it's just been awesome. And it, like it, I say it like in every email, you know, it means a lot to us because it truly does. I mean, like, you know, we're three guys, you know, blue collar guys that's trying to make a badass archery company, and to see people as excited as we are is awesome. And I mean, even to, you know, be on a podcast like this, like it means a lot to us. And that's, you know, we don't take that lightly, you know, and that helps us with our product development too, you know, like you see that, you know, that passion in the products we design, and again, to get the response that we have been has been awesome.
Yeah, that's something that's just kind of stuck out is just your guys' drive and motivation to just figure it out. Just you give 0 Fs, you don't give a crap what people think, you just go for it and you take feedback the way it is and move forward. And that's I think that's what sets you guys apart from a lot of other companies.
Yeah, I mean, really, like at the end of the day, that's all you can do, right? Like, you know, and you know, there's days where it's easier than others. You know, it's, you know, there's days where you get overwhelmed, and again, you know, your little bitch voice kicks in, and you just got to tell it to shut the F up, and, you know, rub some dirt in it and keep going. And again, like I keep circling back to our team, like that's, and not even just our internal team, you know, like our external team, like people don't even know that they're on our team, you know, like there'll be days where, you know, you wake up and you're just like, man, like your head just feels it's going to explode because you have everything running through it. Like, you know, like you had a conversation that didn't go the way you wanted to, or, you know, there's struggles. And then like, I'll look at an email from somebody and, you know, just be like nothing but just, you know, positivity and just like, love what you guys are doing. Like, you know, so like fired up, like just can't wait to see where this company goes. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what, like again, like screw that little bitch voice that was trying to keep me down. Like this is why we're doing this is for that type of response. And, you know, and again, I think, you know, it helps kind of just like where we've all been and where we've came from and stuff like that. Like it's just kind of all led to this point. And I think we all kind of realize that this is what we were kind of supposed to be doing, you know. And again, who knows where this will go, but I mean, we're sure going to give it our best try.
Awesome. Well, Scott, that's probably a good spot to end it. We're at almost an hour recording, and appreciate you jumping on, and definitely let everybody know where they can stay tuned. We're going to obviously be talking about Dialed more in the future, but let everyone know where they can stay up to date with all the developments on the Arxos and what Dialed's got coming.
Best place is definitely social media. You know, Instagram, Facebook. Taylor's a whiz when it comes to that stuff. So he's been awesome with you know, posting the latest and greatest and keeping everybody up to date. If anybody hasn't, they can go to our website, sign up for our email notifications. So, you know, big news and stuff we'll send out via an email, or anybody has questions, thoughts, whatever. You know, message us on social media, or they can email me on our support email, which is just support@dialedarchery.com.
Heck
Awesome.
yeah, that's
we don't have a dedicated phone line yet because we can't afford that yet, but that's coming. We got to sell a few more sites to afford a phone bill.
Get your pre-orders in, people.
Yeah, we need your money.
Well, Scott, we really appreciate you taking the time today and kind of going over Dialed, going over what you do and what you guys are about. And it's refreshing to hear some new blood in the industry, killing it, just pushing forward and gonna make a big impact.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys, and hell, I'm looking forward to see what you guys do with this podcast. So I'm kind of new to the whole podcast thing, so I'm learning, but I think it's awesome what you guys are doing too. So excited for you guys as well.
Well, we're excited to see what we do with this podcast thing too. So.
yeah.
We got the name, and that's about it.
Hey, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part, coming up with the name. And at least you have halfway mediocre mics too. So
that's right. Thanks to Dialed.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was Taylor and Jordan. I'm not taking any credit for that. That was Taylor and Jordan. So.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and catch us on the next episode. Thanks again, Scott.
You bet. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.